Likely. We are live, everyone. I am Kevin Lee Father. We're going to take a look at a couple of Trump interviews today. Actually, one Trump interview and then a bonus presentation of the first Space Force flag. So we're going to be looking at that today. As soon as somebody's in the chat room, let me know. If you're just joining us for the first time, the best place to chat with us is at youtube.com/Kevin Lee Father. YouTube tends to have the least amount of delay going back out to you, and then back to me. So we're going to look at both those things. First is going to be an interview with Maria Bartiromo on Fox Business yesterday that didn't get a lot of coverage beyond just being on Fox Business, which makes sense because it wasn't on Fox. If it's on Fox News, a lot of people see it. All right, here we go. Airbus is in there. You must be a specialist in space farce because Airbus builds rockets or something, right? Super duper rockets is what I've heard. We'll get to that later. And yeah, the president really said super duper missiles. Hey, Cam. Hey, David. Good to see you here. So David here is a fact checker, and we'll be depending on him to fact check just about everything. So let's get going with this. Let me know if the audio levels are off. Looks like my mic is on. We might have a special guest star later during the broadcast. We'll have to see what happens. Let's get going. This is a lot of discussion of General Flynn is what I'm guessing.
How are you doing? I know that coronavirus has hit here as well. How are you doing, your team, your inside team?
Well, we're doing well. It's very sad what's happened to the world and to our country with all of the death. We are going to build our economy back bigger than ever, but with all of that death, you can never replace what's taken, and it's very sad for a lot of families that are so horribly hit and so unnecessary. They could have stopped it. They could have stopped it in China where it came from, but didn't happen that way.
I want to ask you about China. I'll get to that, but let's talk about the reopening of America right now. Yeah. About half of the states have begun this process. Right. Is it too soon? There are some calls out there that they're talking about a relapse in the fall. Is it too soon?
So I want them to open when they can, when they want. The governors are opening them. Most of
I apologize, guys. The volumes are going to seem wacky here for a second. I'm splitting headphones today, so because, like I said, we might have a special guest. So let's. I'm going to bear with me while I adjust this stuff here.
Some are either opened or opening or considering it. I think that we have to get back to work. We have to get our country back. We have to take it back. It was artificially closed. I think we're doing incredibly well, considering the fact that we had the greatest economy, Maria, in history. You report it every morning. The greatest that anyone's ever seen. Best job numbers, best stock market numbers, best everything.
We did have the best job numbers. We had 2.1% GDP, which is not even close to being the greatest economy in history.
And in addition to military being strong, all of the things we've done, and we had to just one day, boom, close it. We did the right thing, and now we got to get back. We got to bring our country back, and it's going to happen, and it's going to happen fast. I call it a transition to greatness. You're going to have the third quarter.
Testing to lateness.
Starting to get into that right now, but it's going to be a transition. That's a transition quarter.
We're getting into the third quarter right now?
Fourth quarter, and I think next year, with all of the stimulus, all of the things we've done, I think we're going to have one of the best economic years we've ever had.
Dr. Fauci is saying a different thing. He says he's worried about spikes turning into outbreaks. He said it seems like it could be too soon, and that the major message he wants to convey is that the danger is if we skip over the checkpoints and the guidelines to open America again, then we risk the danger of multiple outbreaks.
So Anthony is a good person, very good person. I've disagreed with him. When I closed the border to China, he disagreed with that, and then ultimately he agreed, and he said I saved hundreds of thousands of lives, which is what happened.
It was
Everybody
tens of
disagreed
thousands,
when
but
I did that. I think that we have to open our schools. Young people are very little affected by this. We have to get the schools open. We have to get our country open.
They become vectors.
We have to open our country. Now, we want to do it safely, but we also want to do it as quickly as possible. We can't keep going on like this. I mean, you're going to have you're having bedlam already in the streets. You can't do this. We have to get it open.
You can't do it as quickly as possible.
I totally disagree with him on schools, and we will have. I call them embers. I call them spikes, and I noticed he used the word spike. Well, you might have that, and we'll put it out. we've learned a lot. We didn't know anything about this. This is a horrible disease. This is a horrible plague. I call it a plague. It's a terrible thing. We've learned a lot, and we also know how to put it out. But we have to open our country.
We don't know how to put
it
out.
We have no choice.
Except
people are dying
really social
this way
distancing.
too.
You don't
when
put
you
it out.
report this
It
better
runs
than I
its
could ever
course.
report it. But
And you're
people are
undoing the social
they're
distancing.
dying with this closure, with the shutdown of a country where they're in their house or in their apartment. They're not allowed. Some people are too tough on it.
Okay, very quickly, there was a study done that said that throughout North America and Europe, the 2008 recession contributed to 10,000 extra suicides. We're at, 86, 87,000 now?
They're not allowed to go out. They can't. They're losing their jobs. We're not going to let it happen.
Do you think your critics want you to keep it closed going into the election?
Yeah, I do. I think it's a political thing in addition. I think
because
some
they're
states,
saying you're putting money, business ahead of lives.
Yeah, no. I think the people that want to see the right thing happen, they agree with me. We have to get our country open. If it was up to some people, let's keep it closed for a long time, okay? A long time, and watch the United States go down the tubes. Not going to happen. Never going to happen on my
That's what I
watch.
want to ask you. I mean, do you see long-term damage done the longer that you stay closed? Because Jay Powell said that as well, that there is a long-term impact the longer it stays closed.
Yeah, so what I do see is this. I see we're losing a tremendous number of lives. So is the world. The world, 184 countries. It's now more than
187.
that. Think of it. But tremendous lives lost. So that can never, when you talk about damage, that can never be replaced. We're going to lose over 100,000 perhaps in this country. Now, in all fairness, that's at the bottom level of the scale. We would have lost 2 million. We would have lost more if we did it a different way.
If we did nothing.
You're talking about 100,000 more, a little bit less, more.
That is
Who
Kayleigh
knows?
daughter.
It's a terrible thing. No, so that can't be replaced. We're spending trillions of dollars on all of the damage economically, financially that it's caused. So it is a terrible thing. It's just an incredible thing. We were sailing 2 months ago. We were sailing. We were going. We had the best of everything.
It was the best unemployment situation in my life.
Yeah, sailing on the cruise ship.
And now we're talking about 33 million people
then
from
most of us caught it.
unemployment. Even after $10 trillion in stimulus,
That's
you've got
all
a
going to
wave
come
of
back.
bankruptcies.
The lives won't come back. That's all going to come back. It's going to come back fast. Now, with that, we're spending money, we're borrowing money, we're spending money. All
Danielle
of that
said
stuff
hi.
is bad, but all of that's going to work out. That's going to all come back. We have a strong dollar. We have a great country.
You got your own chat
the
right there.
people want to go back to work, and they don't want to lose their jobs, by the way.
So you want a strong dollar? Because in the past you've said you
I'll tell
didn't
you
want a
what,
strong
it's
dollar.
a great time to have a strong dollar because the whole world, we're paying 0 interest rate. That's never happened either. We're paying so low. Everybody wants to be in the dollar because we kept it strong. I kept it strong. Now,
Okay, very quickly, the way it works with a strong dollar is it makes it more difficult for other countries to buy our products. So a strong dollar is not a good thing. By the way, that's Kayleigh daughter in the chat room there.
Trade standpoint, it's tougher, but from a country standpoint and an inflation standpoint, you don't have inflation, you don't have problems. Now we have a strong dollar, and right now it's good to have a strong dollar.
Mr. President,
I can live both
it
ways.
is not.
You understand that. But right now, having a strong dollar is a great thing.
What's the right mix of policies to get us back? You had a policy program in 2017, and you moved the needle on economic growth. That was tax cuts, that was deregulation, that was turning on the energy spigot, and it was a new trade situation.
You can talk out loud.
Is it the same playbook to get us back?
So we're going to have maybe a different playbook, stronger than I would have ever said.
Okay, so Kayleigh daughter wants to know what's a strong dollar. So the dollar, the United States dollar is sort of the world standard of all the other currencies. It has been for...
Are you sure?
What?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm
Or
positive.
is it just because you live in America?
No, that's kind of the way it's been. The United States has long been the economic powerhouse of the world. So
That's funny.
Why?
Because we suck.
Look
at that guy.
We've sucked like the last couple of years, but
Right.
normally we're sort of the leader of the world.
Okay.
People look to us for leadership and for guidance, and so the United States dollar might be right here, and then the Australian daughter the Australian daughter or the German lire or mark or whatever. It might be, well, it's a euro now. Okay, let's just take one example. Canadian dollar, American dollar, 75 cents. No, sorry, 75 cents a dollar. So 75 cents of American dollar might be worth a whole dollar of Canadian dollar.
Yes.
The trouble is when the dollar gets stronger, right? So now something, $1 US is worth 60 cents Canadian. Now it costs Canadians more to get up to buy that product from the United States because the products don't get cheaper just because your dollar gets more expensive or worth more. So other countries buy less stuff from us. Now his whole campaign was about A, I hate brown people, and B, we need to do something about the trade imbalance. We spend more money in China than they spend with us. He wants to produce more things in America, sell them to China. With a strong American dollar, that becomes more difficult and it hurts American companies. Just ask Tim Apple. Okay? All right, moving on, guys.
Very much a pro-USA person. I was America first, right? Always. You've known me ever since you've known me, and I was right about that. Strong borders. Our border is very strong. We have some of the best numbers we've ever had. Southern border, the best numbers.
Are those the
we've
trucks
ever
outside
had.
honking? Are
And
those the
campaigned
protest
on.
trucks?
I did, and we've now built 182 miles of way.
Yeah,
You know
they
what
were
that
there
is?
yesterday, too. I
182
didn't even know
miles.
that.
We'll be at close to 500 miles by
So these are
early
truckers
next year
against
of
Trump
wall.
that you can hear in your
Brand new,
headphones,
all brand new,
or however
and
you're listening.
renovated too. But I'm not even talking about that. We're talking.
They were there
about
again today, and
over
Trump was claiming
500
that they were
miles of wall.
protesters in favor
And
of Trump.
we have. You have to understand.
'Cause
I
he
had a
couldn't think
party
of the word
told me
for
they want
supporters.
open borders. They want people pouring in, and even they don't mention it. You notice I have all the financing. They didn't even bother with
No,
it at the end.
these are
because I turned out.
Yeah, so according to the Washington Post, there's a lineup of truckers outside the White House honking because they want a couple of things. They want to get rid of a 12% tax on new trucking parts. Plus, since the economy has tanked, the actual number of miles driven by the truckers varies between 17% less in a state like Texas and 37% less in a state like Michigan. There's just less demand for product because people are staying home. Really, all we're buying is groceries. Hardly anybody is buying anything else, and so there's less stuff to ship around on trucks. It's a ripple effect that's a tsunami.
So what about truckers? They're mad?
They're mad, so they're outside the White House. They're on Pennsylvania Avenue outside the White House honking.
To be right. They didn't want to be the party that was opposed to having walls and having strong borders. But they are. They want open borders. They want people pouring into our
Adopted.
country. And now they look at it and they say they pour in. Do they have COVID-19? Do they? What's the problem? You know, what problem do they have? Okay. And so they want to stay away from that subject. But when you think of what we've done, but I was always America first. Make America great again, right? And basically, it's that, but it's that plus because
Why wouldn't they just move inside?
a lot of
with all the
people
horns
fought
honking?
me on China. You hear what that? You hear all that honking? You know what that is? That's trucks. They
Yeah.
love their
The trucking
president.
protesters, right?
Well, they're not protesters. They're supporters of me.
They're
because
protesters.
we're getting things for the truckers and all those great truckers that are all over the country.
They want the economy
And they're
also.
hunky,
Sounds like a
and
South
they're
African
really
football
very
game.
thankful that I'm president, frankly. So when I hear the horns,
You guys remember the
there's
vuvuzelas?
1,000 trucks outside. It's great. So
It's not.
what
he's
we're doing
the
is what I
dumbest
was doing
person on the
before, but
planet.
even more so. And I'm even, stronger about it. America first. China.
Yes,
I made a
all
great
truckers
trade deal.
want open
The ink
or
wasn't
safe.
dry when the plague came over from China, but the ink wasn't even dry.
They didn't tell you about it when they came here on the 15th of January.
It's 'cause he
and
uses
shook
a
everybody's
Sharpie.
hands.
It takes
That was never
longer.
even a subject. That was not anything that anybody really understood or knew about at the time. But China,
What?
I'm
Hold
very
on.
disappointed in
Sorry,
China.
guys.
I will tell you
I
that
missed what
right
he
now.
said there.
I have a
I'm
lot
back.
on the 15th of January and shook everybody's
That was
hands.
never even a subject. That was not anything that anybody really understood or knew about at the time. But China, I'm very disappointed in China. I will tell you that right now.
I have a lot of questions
Maria,
on China,
We can
Mr.
we can do
President.
things in our country. We can, we used to make our own product. Would you believe it, right? We used to make our own product.
Still
we
do.
don't need 37 pencils. We can buy 2 pencils, and they can be better. But, we went astray. The whole thing, we went astray.
Where are
I've
we
been
going to
talking about
find
this
these
for
better
20 years.
pencils?
Probably
Like
it's the
pencils,
number
how
one
can they get
reason I
better?
ran
Maybe they're called
for
pens.
president. Because I saw that our car industry was leaving, going to
Students
Mexico.
nowadays.
Mexico makes
Mechanical
30% of our
pencils?
cars.
those
It's
are
not even believable.
Well,
And
businesses
Canada
wanted-
makes a lot of our
Businesses
cars.
wanted cheap labor, but they also wanted
Damn
lax
Canadians.
environmental rules.
See, the cheap labor turned out to be very expensive because when you add what this is costing, you just take a look at what's happening. And when
Okay.
you add what's costing by us with our drugs, our pharmaceutical products, so many different
Minerals.
things. So I put tariffs on China, and we've taken in tens of billions of dollars. I gave a lot of that money to the farmers because they were targeted by China. And every other president let China do whatever they wanted. You know, we were
As opposed to the
losing
packs of
anywhere from
37
$200 billion to
pencils.
$500 billion
Hell,
to
pencils always
China a
come
year.
in
Think of it.
37 packs.
We rebuilt China, and I give them a lot of credit.
The little
But I don't
golf
give our
pencils.
past
Good point,
presidents and
Tyrone.
leaders a lot of credit
what-
because they got taken to the cleaners.
I go out to play golf, and they give me these tiny little pencils. I remember when I was a kid, they seemed a lot bigger.
And worst of all was the last 8 years under President Obama and Biden, where his son
I'm gonna
gets
get to that.
$1.5 billion,
Yeah, I
and
know,
then they're
but
supposed
he
to
doesn't
be
take
tough
responsible
on
for
China.
anything. No,
Doesn't work
he's
that
not
way.
good
He
with
traveled on Air Force Two.
Yeah,
with
he used
then
his
Vice
father.
President
His
Joe
father
Biden.
got him to hundreds. Look, It's
he doesn't know where he's
impossible
going
to
with
do what
that,
he
so he
did.
always
He
does that.
talked his-
He'll go with it.
Look, his father got him to,
Look, he starts all over again. Just, it's his equivalent of a record scratch.
Steve Schwarzman, if you took, and I asked him, I said, Steve, is something like that possible? He said,
To get that
"Totally
kind of
impo-"
money.
He said, it's impossible. You can't get that money. He said, this guy had no experience. He didn't even have a job. And he
Actually,
walked out of
did.
China with $1.5 billion to invest for them, of which he makes hundreds of thousands and actually millions of dollars. What is this?
So how do you get us back? When you look at these numbers, we're going to be going into the election with a double-digit
There are
unemployment
Trump
rate. I mean, could
pencils.
we get below 10% by September on unemployment?
No, but
and
by,
what are your
by
policies
next year,
to get
I think
us
we're
back?
going to be very, very strong again. We have tremendous powers that other people don't
So we're not
have.
going to get to 10% by
we
September,
have
you just said.
tremendous job capacity, and I think what's going to happen is next year is going to be one of our best years. I feel that
Well,
we will
yeah, 'cause there's gonna be
transition
an
in this
election.
third quarter. Fourth quarter is going to be good. Next year is going to be incredible.
Are there industries that you're thinking of that will lead us out of there, that are more poised to...
Remember, in 2017, he hit 3% GDP. That was the tail end of the Obama economy, and it's been going downhill ever since. This last quarter was 2.1%. But in 2017, he was bragging about hitting 3%, and then it was going to go as high as 4 or 5%. He didn't see a reason why it wouldn't get to 6%. But he wasn't going to say that because otherwise the media would jump all over him if he was wrong. He said that out loud.
open and have economic...
Do you remember anybody in the media being like, hey, you didn't get to 6%?
activity than others? And what about states? Are there states out there that have become a model for you? I know Georgia did well, Florida as well, in terms of their openings. What can you tell us about the openings so far?
But don't forget, those states, none of them would have done well without what we did in the federal government, because we became the ventilator maker of the world. I mean, we are now doing things with ventilators that nobody thought possible. When we took over, we didn't have ventilators. Nobody knew what a ventilator was. We're making thousands of ventilators now a week. And also, by the way, everybody's got ventilators. We're giving them now and selling them to other countries.
Oh, I've got 2 or 3 in the closet.
Other countries are calling up. They desperately need them. With a testing capital, you see the numbers. I mean, you've seen this before. But the one, this is us in the blue.
You're up to 10 million.
Now look at this, over 10 million tests.
So we get to
He's
a
not
place
holding it
where the
high
White
enough for the
House is in
camera,
corporate
but-
America, where every time you go to work, you
like,
just
look at
get
this,
your temperature
pretend
taken, you
here.
get a test. Is that where we're going? Is
Hey,
that
Sabbath.
You don't want
Or
to be doing
Salt,
that. Look,
Sabbath,
we want to go back to,
hey,
like, you want to see a
6355.
baseball game, or you want to see a basketball or football, you want to walk into a stadium.
Oh, it's Stephanie.
I
Hey,
went
Stephanie.
to the Alabama LSU
Oh, hey,
game
this is
last year.
exciting.
They
Guys,
had-
at the end of all of this, I've got credits, and your name might be in the credits. If you're one of my patrons, your name is in the credits. If you want to be a patron, I can't get your name into the credits today, but I will get your name into the credits next time. KevinLeeFather.com. Go there, become a patron. And then you see up above us here every once in a while, you'll see a PayPal thing come up. You can just donate to us directly through PayPal.
Dang it.
It's backwards. Everything's backwards. So when it comes up, you point. That's your job. You be the Vanna White of this operation. So you can donate directly over PayPal, but Patreon works just fine. I don't want anyone quitting Patreon and doing the PayPal thing, but a lot of people, by a lot I mean 2, were asking if they can do PayPal. And yes, and tomorrow, she showed me how to do this thing called the Cash App, where you
It's
get
not
$5.
called the Cash App.
What's
Let
it
me
called?
explain it.
Okay.
There's an app called Cash App.
The
and
Cash
what
App.
it is like Venmo or PayPal, but except when you get the app through his link, you will get $5.
I'm giving you money.
Yeah, so if you get the app, he'll get $5 and so will you. And then you could just give your $5 right back to him. Or keep it.
And she will spend it. What a great system.
I'll buy some ventilators.
Oh, hey.
What? There's that guy.
That's right. So if you want to PayPal me, you can either take a picture of that with your phone. Seriously, like open up your camera and aim it at that. It'll link to my PayPal. Or just go paypal.me/KevinLeeDad. Kevin Lee Father was already taken. All right, back to the action.
Had 110,000 people in the stadium. I don't want to see 25,000 people where you have empty seats all over the place
When
because
do you
of
think
distancing.
we could get back to that, Mr. President?
I
How
think
long
we're
is
gonna
this
have
going
a
to take to get back
vaccine.
to normalcy?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a vaccine.
Did he just say he doesn't want to get back to sports with no audience? I'll watch him. Happy to.
By the end of the year, we're doing very well with the vaccine. And I will tell you something, I just literally left a meeting. We're mobilizing our military and other forces, but we're mobilizing our military on the basis that we do have a vaccine. You know, it's a massive job to give this vaccine. Our military is now being mobilized. So at the end of the year, we're going to be able to give it to a lot of people very, very rapidly.
And you're just doing something with syringes as well so that you can have it plentiful.
That's
You
right.
have enough vaccine.
We will have the tremendous
See you,
force.
Stephanie.
'Cause assuming we get it, then you have to
Oh, I thought you were
distribute
saying,
it.
I'll be
And
back
unless
later.
you're mobilized and ready, you're not going
But
to
it's
be
good
able
to
to
see
do
you
it for
again.
a long time.
We
So
were
we're
worried
starting
about you.
now.
People
we're
were
of the
asking.
assumption that by the end of the year, we're going to have a vaccine, and then we have to be able to give it, to use it on most of our population.
Yeah.
Now, we'll focus on elderly. We're going to focus on nursing.
Okay, so today he had a big vaccine palooza at the White House, and he introduced the doctor who was going to lead the vaccine initiative. And the doctor said, we will have, we're hoping to have X number of million doses available. But he didn't say that they would be manufactured and ready to distribute through the testing process. So I think what they're going to do, if I'm right in understanding what's going on here, is they're going to take a few vaccines that might work and then start producing them while they're still in the testing phase. But the doctor did not say that we will have a vaccine program ready to distribute, that we're going to have 330 doses or whatever by the end of the year. But everybody clapped nonetheless, but you have to listen to the words.
Yes, you have to scan
Home
it in
and
the PayPal app. You can't just
senior
take a
citizen
picture of your phone.
centers,
You have to
because
do
that's
that.
really, if you look at
No, you can
Scan
take a
that.
picture with your phone. I just did.
But what if you have an
It's
iPhone?
simple solution. Just go to paypal.me/KevinLeeDad. Done.
it,
Move on.
that is
Do iPhones not work for it? Is that the thing?
They don't have
Because I have an
Google
Android. It
goggles.
works perfectly for it.
But you just go to the PayPal app and then you just type in who you want to pay, or you can type or scan it.
All right, moving
a
on.
very vulnerable group.
But
It's a
thanks,
terrible
Danielle. Thanks
thing.
for giving it a
But,
shot.
So we're going to be
It'll come up
focused on
again.
that. We're going to go
Can
with
you
the
divide
vaccine.
the country saying, okay, if you're below 50, you're healthy and strong, you're okay, go back to work. Elderly, divide them.
Well, we're doing that, and I'm actually saying, like with the schools, open the schools. But if a teacher is 65 or older, especially if they have diabetes, if they have
All
a
right, I'm
bad
getting
heart,
rid of
if
it.
they have a problem, we say relax for a longer
Gone.
period of time. But if you look, there's been very little damage done to people that are healthy and young and, frankly, medium-aged people. But the elderly have been decimated, absolutely.
Let me get back to getting us back to where we were. Nancy
thanks,
Pelosi
Rich.
has
You're
a
already a
stimulus
patron. You
package
don't
now.
have to
We
pay
know
through
that
the
it is
PayPal
$3
app.
trillion.
Thank you.
Kevin McCarthy's been tweeting about this, and apparently it includes diversity provisions for the marijuana business. It includes tax breaks for blue state donors, federal election takeover that mandates mail-in voting. What is your take on proxy votes and mail-in voting? This is part of the Speaker's stimulus package.
So she knows it's dead on arrival. We had a very interesting evening last night, as you know. In Wisconsin, we won very, very by a lot. And this is not a
Very,
promo,
very
it was an
by a
election.
lot.
It was a special election. We won a House seat. Supposed to be close. We won by a lot. We had a great person, now Congressman Tom Tiffany.
And the Republicans won in California, a special election.
And in California, we're just getting the numbers, and it looks like we won that big. And he's been a tremendous candidate, Mike Garcia. He went out, he worked, and he won, and he took back a seat from the Democrats in California.
truckers are
Think of
still
that.
going.
in an area that nobody
Hey,
thought
thanks,
possible.
Aldous.
It was held by a Democrat, as
Superhearts.
you know, a Democrat who had a lot of problems. And Mike went out
We're
and
gonna get your name
he won
and
that seat.
Paul's
These
name
are two
in
now
the
the
credits
press
too,
doesn't even
Aldous. I
write.
just didn't do that
But
today because I
if
just
we
went on
lost those
Patreon.
seats, it would be headline news. Rough time for Trump, because I'm running against Sleepy Joe Biden, but I'm also running against the Democrat machine, and I'm running against, and you see how bad they are with all of the things that are coming out. When you look at these releases that are just being given to you just
We're gonna
now
talk
as we
about
sit
that.
down. But I'm
Yes.
running against the Democrats, and I'm running against the media. I'm running against the radical left. I'm
And the
running
truckers.
against some really stupid Republicans that don't understand how good they had it. Because
Awesome.
we have
Thanks,
some
Aldous.
I'm at 95 or 96% with the Republican Party, but we have some people that claim to be Republicans, and they've gone crazy. And the reason is I've defeated them all. You know, they were all my opponents, and they've never gotten over it. Guys, Weaver and Schmidt, all losers. And they go out and they try buying commercials. And you say, gee, we've rebuilt our military. We've taken care of our vets.
So this is an awesome story. You guys have probably seen The Morning in America by the Lincoln Project, the Morning in America ad. They spent $5,000 showing it on Fox News in the Washington, D.C. market only. That's all they spent on that ad. And the last time I looked, they had over 12 million views on YouTube. Of course, they targeted Fox, and specifically when they knew the president would be watching. So they paid $5,000 to get under his skin. And I have no idea how many millions of views they have now, but it was probably the best spent $5,000 in the history of advertising. So great job, Lincoln Project.
Vets are in the best shape. You've never seen anything like it with the vets, you know, with choice, with everything else. We've done such a good job.
Obama
And
got
then you
them
add
choice.
the judges, and you add protecting our Second Amendment. And what are these guys going to do? Support Joe Biden? And
No.
What has
'cause
he done to
Joe
protect the Second
has
Amendment?
been brought way left, way left. They've never gotten over losing to me. It wasn't supposed
It is,
to
Stephanie.
happen. And then I had another race. It was
I hope
against
so,
crooked
'cause if
Hillary
it's not,
Clinton.
she might
and
have the
she's never
coronas.
gotten over it either.
Well, she's been
Stranger.
tweeting already saying that we have to vote by mail. Now, I know that there was interference in the 2016 election.
voted by
They
mail.
were out to get you and they wanted to take you
Have
down.
you
There's
yet?
another kind of
Yeah,
interference,
that's
and that could be fooling around with voting machines. I mean, in terms of voting by mail, vote proxies, what's your take? Do you want that?
So,
she's been tweeting about that, Hillary.
There's no
Voting by
vote
mail is
proxies
very
with voting by
dangerous
mail.
because people can grab them. People can take that proxy, sign a name. They can do all sorts of things, especially harvesting. They go out and they say, just, you know, let's put them all together, and that's happened. And by the way, we were thinking that might happen in California. We were, you know, worried about the race, but look, in California, they actually won. They voted by mail. The one we just won.
Yeah, so you
Today,
were wrong.
We just won it.
You were
Vote
wrong.
by mail. And they were losing because when you vote by mail, you see the tally, how it's going, right?
You
and
don't.
we were losing.
It's a paper.
We were losing that issue.
They don't release
so we
the
lost that
tally
issue.
until the
We're
night of the
voting
election.
by mail. We're winning. What happens? They immediately set a voting booth up.
Really, Danielle?
Wasn't
So the
supposed
truckers
to,
have been doing that
in
for
the middle
13
of a
days.
Democrat area, so they could get
Democratic.
votes. But they still didn't do it. We won the race. It's pretty
So
amazing.
why would Nancy Pelosi come up with this $3 trillion plan
I think
if
she
she
wants
knows it's dead on
to help
arrival?
the
She
American
knows
people.
nobody's going to go for marijuana business in the middle of a pandemic.
37 million unemployed?
More than anything else, she wants the voter, the way of voting changed. Because if you did that, look, they have had some very dishonest things. You look at California, look at Los Angeles, where Judicial Watch settled a case where they
Funny,
agreed that
Marcy.
1 million votes were fraudulent. 1 million votes in one
No.
area
No.
were fraudulent. And they could
Not
have
true.
done a lot more, but it was so ridiculous, there was no reason to go any.
Remember, when he first came into office, he put together a voters commission, a blue ribbon panel on voter fraud that was eventually disbanded without finding any voter fraud.
Further, they came to a settlement. They agreed on 1 million votes. The level of dishonesty with Democrat voting is unbelievable.
Democratic.
If you told a Republican
Yeah.
to vote twice, they'd get sick at even the thought of it. And you have people that vote numerous times. What's happening is crazy. So now they want to send out.
Where are they getting?
He forgot to
all
finish it.
these
He never
ballots?
finishes his sentence.
If you told a Republican to vote twice for me, they'd get sick.
It's true. Lincoln Project.
Vote by mail. Who knows who's signing this stuff? Not only should they come and vote, Now,
The
if you're a senior
Secretary of
citizen,
State
if
has
you
your
just do that, like
signature
in
on
Florida,
record.
there's a great system of voting, but it's a fair system.
Someone I know actually had their vote returned. And so here's the deal with voting by mail. Washington's been doing it for, 20 some years, whatever. It's fantastic. Much lower voter fraud. You register to vote, and then they have your signature. Then you get it at home, and you send it back when it's convenient for you. And you can either pop it in the mail and put a stamp on it, or they have boxes all over the city, and you just, like a drive-by box, like a mailbox. Most of the libraries, and then a couple of other locations as well. And then for the homeless population, they actually have, you can vote in purpose. Hopefully you're voting on purpose in person at a couple of places. Yeah, Lizzie, they have it in Oregon too. It's been all vote by mail for a long time. And I actually have a friend whose signature had changed slightly because, who cares about their signature anymore? And they sent it back. Or no, they didn't send it back. I think they called her and said, we just want to confirm that this is you, because they have all your information already. So if someone was to, they'd have to go to your house and break into your mailbox and steal your vote, at which point you'd be like, hey, I never got my ballot. And you would contact the county and they would send you a new ballot. Here's the other cool thing about it. Once you send your ballot in, you can track it online. You know where that ballot, just like you're tracking packages when they're coming to you from Amazon, same thing, but with your vote. So you know what's going on. And if there is a problem with your vote, you can actually see it online and address it before they even contact you. It's really cool. I don't know. It's just one of those stupid things, like why we still have checks. Like Canada got rid of pennies. 15 years? Like you probably don't even remember Canadian pennies.
It wasn't 15. I don't think it was 15 years ago, because I do remember.
You do remember? Okay, so
Yeah.
I don't know, 10, 12, whatever it is. Somebody look it up. Somebody in the chat room.
I was buying coffee, so I would not have been 5 years old.
Well, I don't know. I kept you going. Here we
And
go.
it's a very closely watched system. So in some cases, age, you're not feeling well, you should be able to do it. But you have to go out and vote. And if you don't do that, we'll have the worst rigged election since Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders has had a lot of bad things happen to him. It's interesting with Bernie
It's a
Sanders.
good point. I'm glad you make that.
If Bernie Sanders
Hillary
if
hammered
Elizabeth
Bernie
Warren
Sanders in the overall vote,
drops,
by the
and
way.
nobody talks about this. I say it all the time because it's so basic. Elizabeth Warren
He's
was
so
a failed
basic.
candidate, but she got a lot of the super liberal votes, the radical left, I call it. And she didn't drop out of the race, Super Tuesday. If she drops out of the race, she doesn't even have to endorse Bernie Sanders. He wins every state.
Not every
Almost
state, no,
every
but he
state.
does win a lot more.
Against Biden. But she didn't, and then 2 other people did drop out. They gave the support to Biden. And despite that, if she does it, because she got, thousands of votes, every one of those races were very close. He would win almost every state, Bernie Sanders. And that was the
He just said he would
establishment
win every
Democrats
state.
Wow.
killing Bernie Sanders.
Mr. President, there are a lot of people today that are very happy that you're so tough as you are, because there's a statute. There's a 1947 statute that says Nancy Pelosi would yield all of the powers of the presidency if the president and vice president could not. Consistent with the law, she could issue whatever executive order she wanted, fire disfavored political appointees, and in general, direct the executive branch as she pleased.
Well,
She's
she would
third in
become
line.
president.
It's never going to happen.
That's the
we'll
line
keep
of
our vice president
succession.
very healthy, and I'll stay healthy. Never going to happen. She would be a disaster. Look, Nancy Pelosi's a disaster.
We shall see.
Okay?
I'm
even doing a thing
I
like
hate
that with
people
her.
getting sick, but I'm
'cause
rooting for
what she
him
wants
getting the
to do is
coronas.
get involved with the voting. She just got back to
He's
Washington.
right here.
Everyone said, what was so long? She just
Heavenly
got back
Kitty's under
here.
the table.
So let's just see how it all works out.
So-
but I think we're going to have a great election.
Kitty.
I'm getting really good poll numbers. For the most part, they're not being shown. And I saw Joe Biden on
Not being
television
shown
yesterday.
'cause they don't
And if
exist.
you watch him, he knows nothing. He knows absolutely nothing.
By the way, Trump talked about a Gallup poll where he was beating Biden by 10 points or something like that. Completely made it up. Gallup hasn't done a single poll pitting Biden against Trump this year. But, just go ahead and lie. It's kind of his brand.
Do you think he will be the candidate?
I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, I'm looking. Normally, it's, of course, he's going to be the candidate. Again, if Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas,
Yes,
as I
Rick.
affectionately call her, because her whole life was a fraud, if Elizabeth Warren
Why do you ask?
just
Wait, he said, I don't know who the candidate will be. Isn't it Joe Biden?
It probably will be, but it's not official yet because they haven't had the convention yet. They nominate.
Sure?
Yeah, they take all the delegates that you gather during the primaries, and then the delegates get together. Except they're not going to get together this year. There's probably going to be a virtual, like a giant Zoom primary convention, and then they'll pick their nominee. But Bernie Sanders has conceded pretty much, so it's going to be Joe Biden.
Got out before Super Tuesday, it would be Bernie. I don't care who it is; it doesn't
It's
matter.
like
I
10
actually
minutes.
would
He's been
prefer
talking about
Joe.
Elizabeth
I
Warren
think
now.
I'd prefer
I
Joe.
wish he
Who
was
knows, right, about those things?
He's
But
terrified of her.
a lot of people wonder, is he going to be the candidate?
But, how will you be positioning yourself for the
That's a bad
election?
idea.
Because people voted for you because they trusted your economic smarts. They knew you could turn things around for the economy and business. You're a business,
And I
for the
did.
first business president,
No.
exactly. But now,
Nothing's been turned around. Everything is on the same track. Oh, that's not true. I sit corrected. All the unemployment was coming down. The economy was going up. GDP was staying pretty much flat. The stock market had gone up thrice times, has tripled under Obama. And Trump pretty much slowed everything down. In fact, before we had the coronavirus, we were in a manufacturing recession. Things got good for a while. It got a little goosed by the tax bump because the corporations took all that money back in, and then they did the stock buybacks, which he admitted happened, and which is what everybody warned him about. Anyway, I could go on about that for an hour, but yeah, the things he turned around is turning them in the wrong direction.
we've got 33 million people filing for unemployment. We've got 20%.
Nobody blames me for that. Look,
Unemployment
we had to
potentially.
turn off our country. We had
Guys,
the
anybody
greatest.
blame him
as
for
So
we
will you
said.
position yourself differently
Economy?
going into this
No, I don't
election?
think so. I'm going to do it again. I got to do it again. I did it once. I showed it can be done. And you know it. I've been on your show plenty. I did it once, and I'll do it again.
Are you thinking about
And
a
he can't
payroll
do
tax
it.
holiday? How?
I like the idea of a payroll tax because it's very easy to administer, and I'd like it for both the small companies, et cetera, and the people, because it's a double. It's a company tax. It's also for the people, the worker. I'd like a payroll tax.
Cut a payroll tax cut or a holiday?
Cut, mini cut. That's
Yeah,
one of the
cut,
taxes that I want to see cut. And by the way, we've given the largest tax cut in history. If we weren't so strong as a country, we wouldn't even exist right now.
Oh, sorry, Rich.
We
Yeah,
built
and I'm
an
not working either.
incredible
I mean,
machine.
technically,
it was
I guess.
a beautiful thing
You're
to
my
watch.
boss right
It
now,
was-
Rich.
I even said
You're in the big time.
3 months ago, I was with a group of people. I say, can you believe this? Every single day.
You should apply for PPP.
Better
You
employment
guys should apply for
numbers,
PPP.
Better stock market
and
numbers,
pay me
more
with it.
jobs. The military is almost complete now. We've totally rebuilt everything.
Military's almost
and then one day
complete.
I
What
have
does
to
that
turn it
mean?
off. Now, what's going to happen, Maria? We're going to rebuild it again. And it's going to go fast.
You have to give aid to the states. We had Mayor de Blasio on the other day. He said he needs $7.5 billion right now, yesterday. He said he needs to be made whole. What are you thinking in terms of aid to the states, to the cities? How are you going to decide who gets what?
So you've had a lot of states and cities that have been very badly run for a long time. A lot of them are trying to use
They're
the
called red
COVID
states.
problem, you know that, for making up what's happened over 25 years of bad management. Like your governor of Illinois, he wants money. He wants money. I know the family. He wants money. Because,
Yeah, there's a feud between
let's make up for
Trump and the
25 years
family
and some
of
very
the
bad
governor of
current
Illinois
years.
forever and
Now,
ever.
there's one thing. If they spend the money,
So
that's
he'll
one
take
thing
every
for
chance
COVID.
he can to criticize
But
them.
they want money for 25 years of bad management. It happens to be that virtually without exception, they're all in Democrat states. It's very
Democratic.
interesting. Los Angeles wants money. New York wants money. Illinois is really having a hard time. They all want money. We have Republican-managed states that are doing very well. It's a big difference.
I want to get to China, Mr. President, but let me ask you this. You've talked a lot about the supply chains. You changed the conversation on China, obviously, and now we're seeing the average American understand that we cannot have 70% of our active ingredients in our prescription drugs made in China. But how are you going to get these companies to actually bring the supply chain back to America? Are you going to do tax breaks? How do you incentivize them to do it?
I could tell you hundreds of stories of the stupidity that I've seen. As an example, we make a fighter jet. It's a certain fighter jet. I won't tell you which, but it happens to be the
F-35.
F-35, okay?
Did he
It's
just
a
say
great
wouldn't
jet.
tell you?
He wouldn't tell, but it
And
happens to be an
we
F-35.
make parts for
I
this
won't tell you
jet
what it is,
all
but
over
it
the
is an
world.
F-35.
We make them in Turkey. We
That's
make
what he
them here.
does all
We
the
make them
time.
there. All
I don't want to
because
say any
President
names,
Obama and
but it's Rod
others,
Stewart.
I'm not just
It's a
blaming
fighter
him,
jet named Rod Stewart.
Thought it was a wonderful thing. The
got a
problem is if
tremendous
we have
body.
a problem with a
Some
country,
people
you
think
can't
it's
make
sexy.
a jet. If we have, we get parts from all over the
It's a
place.
super
so
duper
crazy.
fighter jet.
We
You're-
should make
you're
everything
absolutely right,
in the
Green Room.
United States. It's
Will
better.
they do it?
Number one, it's better. So yeah, we're doing it because I'm changing all those policies. Look, we make F-35s, very important, the greatest jet in the world, where the main body of the jet is made in Turkey, and then it's sent here. So what happens? We have a good relationship with President Erdogan. What happens if we don't?
Yeah, we'll
with
get the
me?
cat back.
What happens if we don't have? Are they going to say, well, we're not going to give you this, so we have to now gear up, and it
China
takes a long
said
time
that. They
to do
threatened
it?
us that they weren't going to send the prescription
have
drugs
many
if you
things.
kept poking
We
them
have
with the
many
tariffs.
things, okay?
We've been threatened.
Well, I've taken in billions of dollars in tariffs, and these drug companies have
From
to get on the
Americans.
ball because they're going off not only to China.
So are you going to incentivize?
You look at
You're
where
going
they're
to give
going.
them tax
They're going
breaks?
to India, and they're going to Ireland, and they're going. They all over the place. They make
Apple
them.
said now they're going to go to India. They're going to do some production in India away from China.
If they do, you know, we gave Apple a little bit of a break because
What are
they're
you gonna do?
competing with a company that was a part of a trade deal that we made, so it was a little bit unfair to Apple. But we're not allowing this anymore. You know, if we wanted to
how
put
is
up
that a
our own-
Republican ideal to not allow companies to make a profit? That's the reason that companies go overseas, because they can get
Agreed.
cheaper labor and sometimes cheaper ingredients for their products. Republicans are not going to tell these companies. You're not going to go to Apple and say, that's it. You're not making your iPhone in China anymore. You can encourage them to make it.
Hang on. Lavender?
Hey, Brent.
Dutch Bros? White chocolate We should go to
Oh,
Oregon.
we're going through Oregon.
Yeah,
Well, we
you
can't
didn't
stop.
let me stop there last time.
No, we're not stopping. It's not worth risking your life
But
for
what if
Dutch
you don't
Bros.
spit in the drinks?
Although,
Lavender's so good to eat. So good. Anyways, I love Dutch Bros.
are we done with the Dutch Bros? Okay, that part of the segment brought to you by Dutch Bros.
relate.
Hi, Bryn. So good to see you. Someday we're going to play hockey with Bryn again. We both play with Bryn. Panda plays
border
on the
like
upper
other
division
countries
team.
do to us. Apple would build 100% of their product in the United States. That's the way
Bryn.
it would work. But
So you don't think you need to do anything in terms of incentivize to
I
get
have
them?
to do. No,
You
I have to do. But
Will it
one
be tax breaks?
One incentive, frankly, is to charge tax for them when they make product outside. We don't have to do much for them. They have to do for us. Look,
You know those
you have these
Republicans always
companies, and
taxing.
they build, as an example, Mexico. Great relationship with Mexico. They've been very nice to us. They have 27,000 of their soldiers on our border because I insisted on it.
Yeah,
They're
I
not.
would-
But
They're
you
on the
have
southern
Mexico,
border, but okay.
They build a car and they send it over to the border. No tax, no nothing. When we build cars, we send them to other countries. If you take Europe, European Union, it was formed for the benefit of themselves against us, okay? It was formed to hurt us. If you take the European Union, Maria, it's so sad. They send cars over, no tax.
Everything's about
If we want to
Trump.
sell a car over there, it's an impossibility.
I feel like we've been talking about this for 3 years.
Yeah.
You've been opening the
Oh, yeah.
spotlight on
And
this for
and
3
I've made
years.
a lot of changes.
You're
too.
going to Pennsylvania
Yeah.
Thursday.
Right.
What is this about? This is partly to see what kind of manufacturing we can do here,
It's
right?
about manufacturing. I want to bring it all back. And look, there's nothing good about what happened with the plague, okay, especially the death. But the one thing is, it said Trump was right. Because I was getting a lot of fight back, even from people that I like a lot in Congress, etc. And now they're not fighting. These stupid supply chains that are all over the world, where you have a supply chain where they're made in all
So the
different
plague
parts of
was
the world,
good?
and one little piece of the world goes bad and the whole thing is messed up. I said, we shouldn't have supply chains. We should have them all in the United States. We have the companies to do it. And if we don't, we can do that.
And
it's
now,
Economists, businesses have been saying that it's bad having the supply chain split up around the planet for years. Again, corporations do it so that they can save money. That's how profit works. You buy stocks, you expect a dividend. So corporations squeeze more and more profit wherever they can. That's the problem. Yeah, Trump doesn't even own stocks from what he claims. But again, we'll find that all out when he releases his taxes as soon as his audit is done.
It's
the
happening.
services part of our economy is getting crushed.
Yeah.
Hotels, restaurants. We need the manufacturing
It's all happening.
to be picking up.
It's all
It's
happening.
all
Let me turn
happening.
to China, Mr. President. You called it an attack the other day. Was it deliberate?
So a terrible thing happened, and you can look at it as a source. It took place at a certain point, and it could have been put out, and it should have been put out. And we asked to go over.
Could have burned down the city.
They said no. They didn't want our help.
That's
and
true.
I figured that was okay because they must know what they're doing.
Why'd you figure that was
either
okay?
Stupidity, incompetence, or
Talk
it was
about
deliberate.
stupidity,
one or the
incompetence.
Other. But one of the things that is bad is they stopped people leaving. Nobody could go to China. You couldn't go to Beijing. You couldn't go anywhere in China.
But
you could go
he just
to the rest of
China
the
in two
world.
different ways.
What
Did
was
he?
that all
First
about?
was
Why is it?
430,000 people traveled.
Stupidity, incompetence, or it was deliberate, one or the other. But one of the things that is bad is they stopped people leaving. Nobody could go to China. You couldn't go to Beijing. You couldn't go anywhere in China. But you could go to the rest of the world. What was that all about? Why is it?
430,000 people traveled from
Maybe it was a
China to
mistake.
the United
me, David?
States after coronavirus was known.
Right. Okay. So we took in, as you know, a very small, because I put on, in January, and I was criticized by everybody, including Dr. Fauci. I put in a wall. We put in a very strong wall. Only a small number of people were allowed in, and they were all U.S. citizens. I can't tell a U.S. citizen you can't come back into your country.
Well, they weren't all U.S. citizens. It's 40,000 people, but okay.
And then I put up a barrier to Europe, too, because what happened is these same people and others went to Europe. Europe became heavily infected. Italy, a very favorite place of yours.
Yes.
Italy, Spain, France became very, very badly infected. Infected, it's a terrible word, isn't it? It all became
It's
a
allowed,
horror show.
Linda.
And then
You
I
can hate
closed it because I didn't want people coming in from Europe, if you can believe it.
And remember at the beginning, so a couple of things that I'm reminded of by this. When he did his speech saying, I'm going to shut down Europe, he said, including trade, which of course was not part of it. And the same thing with the Chinese ban. He never shut down trade. So if you're a business person who happened to be Chinese, come on in because, trade. Same thing with the border with Canada. Same thing, if truckers come across, bring the virus across or take the virus back to Canada, whatever it is no problem. That's still the situation with us in Canada. And then in Europe, he didn't shut down travel from the UK. So everybody flew to the UK in order to get here. They shut it down a few days later because the UK turned out to be a hotspot, which everybody knew it would be because they decided they weren't going to do anything about the virus.
This is what happened. But by doing this, we actually acted very early. We did a great thing, but it's a disastrous subject, no matter how you cut it.
Knowing what you know now, and as you start reopening things and you're getting info from all of the governors and you're tracking this, when would you expect international travel to come back? Is that a 2021 affair?
All I can say is this, as soon as possible. We can't send planes over to a country that right now, I'm not going to mention names of countries, but there are some that are right now, we talked about one just a little while ago, really badly infected. So we can't bring people in that we just can't
take
do
a while.
Can't say the name of the country?
But a lot of people
country
are going to
that's
start
really bad
traveling more
infected?
so in
I'll
the
give you a
United
hint.
States. And they'll be
It's
back.
USA.
It's all going to be back together. And in many ways, we've learned a lot. And we're going to bring back manufacturing that we could never have done without this. As bad as this has been.
Did he divest
because
himself
now
of those
people
stocks?
agree
He was
with
supposed
me.
to.
A lot of
Qatar.
people are saying Trump was right. I've been talking about this for a long time. I've been doing a lot about it. But they become embedded. It's almost like it becomes a way of life. We have to do business.
So much stimulus.
This
$10
is about our
trillion.
country. It's not about the world. We have to fix our country. The world,
So much
we want to
stimulus?
be a leader, the
Not
leader.
stimuli?
But right now, I'm president of the United States. I'm not president of the world. I say it all the time.
Thank
I want
God.
to make America great again. I want to do what we have. Years ago, we made our own product. We didn't rely on everybody in the world. They have their own problems.
So what happened? They just wanted to do it cheaper? They wanted lax
So you have globalists.
Yeah.
They're globalists. They're people that think we have to make the world wealthy
They're
at our
capitalists.
expense. I don't even know where these
Capitalists.
people come from. But those days are over. And if
They
nothing
were
else over the
economic
last 2 months,
imperialists.
it's been proven to
They
be right.
didn't do
Let me
it for
get
the
to
other
China because
countries.
I also want to get to the unmasking and General Flynn, but I got to get
Head
to
down
China
to
first because
Central
Secretary
America to
Pompeo
ask the
said
food
that he
company.
has strong evidence
Do you
that it
remember
did
that
come from
from
the
your history?
virology
What was
lab.
it?
We've been reporting this every Sunday, by the way,
the
from
companies in
early
Guatemala
on. You
and
also said
Honduras,
that you
the
saw
American
evidence. Can you
companies
tell us
in
anything
South
about
and
the
South America?
intelligence?
No,
What about
but we have a lot of
Remember
information.
what they did?
And it's not good. But you know the worst of all, whether it came from the lab or came from the bats or it all came from China.
School is free.
And they should have stopped it. They could have stopped it at that source. I call it the source. Right there.
They made a decision to allow it to escape its borders.
I don't know if they made the decision, but it got out of control. I think more likely it got out of control.
Senator Cotton said that they didn't want the Chinese economy to contract 20% and the rest of the world to contract 2%.
So we were beating them very badly before this. We were beating them between the tariffs and other things we were doing. And we were going up, and they were having a very bad year. They were having the worst year they've had in 56 years.
He had Hong Kong protesters on the street,
and they weren't well,
67
and even beyond that. And we were really doing well. And that is a theory. But here's what I know for sure. They didn't allow this whole thing. They didn't allow people to go into China, but they did allow them to go out to the world, including the United States. That's why Europe is a mess. That's why, look at these countries. Russia's having a hard time. Everybody's
the United States has 27% of the world's deaths.
For some of them,
it's a
some
mess.
have just started the process. We're getting
this
toward the
country's
end
a
of the
disaster.
process.
You know, so they downplayed the disease. They downplayed the virus. At the same time, they're allowing international travel. 5 million people leaving Wuhan, going to Italy, going to the United States. Then they start cornering the market on protective equipment, even though China is already the largest producer of this stuff.
That's not the big thing. Look, the big thing is they should have never let this happen. So I make a great trade deal, and now I say it just doesn't feel the same to me. The ink was barely dry, and the plague came over.
Is it the third time he said that?
And it doesn't feel
already?
the same to me.
Are they going to renege on it? They're not going to buy the $250 billion, are they?
They will buy $250 billion. They said somewhere I see they'd like to renegotiate the deal. We're not going to renegotiate. Look, I'm not happy about anything having to do with that particular subject right now. But everything I said turned out to be right.
Well.
You go back 10 years, 20 years.
In particular, on behalf of the American
there's the beautiful
people.
Oval Office because of trade, not only with China, with other countries also. You look at other countries, they charge us tariffs to do business, and we're not allowed to charge them.
What are you going to do about it? Right now, as we speak, they're continuing.
You know, it's countries that pay tariffs and brokers, not countries. It's companies.
Continuing to steal intellectual property. The word is out. The FBI puts the warning out. They're stealing.
Qatar, don't be an idiot. Mexico's going to pay for the wall, not build it. Mexicans will build it. See the difference?
Intellectual property on science data, on research. They want to get a COVID-19 vaccine before us. Are they going to beat us to the COVID-19 vaccine?
And they were never called. Now they're being called out all the time with me. For a long time, long before this.
So you can stop them from doing this?
Well, we can stop them. They're going to try doing it. I mean, you could also stop doing business with them. That's one thing. Look, we have lost a fortune dealing with China. We have rebuilt China.
Yeah, let's stop doing business with China and see what happens.
That's what I want to happen.
Really?
Well, yeah.
Where do you think your phone was made?
Prove him. No. To just like prove him like we need them.
She's one of those lefties. She wants the economy to collapse just to prove Trump wrong.
Well, but he's still gonna say it's everyone else's fault and I'm the best.
You've got your wish. No, he just blamed the coronavirus at this point. So
right.
The invisible enemy. Where is it? Is it here? I can't see it. It's like this wall.
They've done a great job.
Giant green wall.
But the people sitting in this seat have allowed them to rip us off like you've never seen before. And that includes President Obama and Biden, Sleepy Joe. He allowed them to rip this country off. We spent hundreds of billions. We gave them hundreds of billions of dollars year in and year out.
Have you spoken to Xi Jinping?
I have a very good relationship, but right now, I don't want to speak to him. I don't want to speak to him.
Because Senator Cotton was saying maybe we should be limiting the amount of visas that we give to students who want to study things like quantum computing.
She's like his best buddy.
There are many things we could do. We could do things. We could cut off the whole relationship. Now, if you did, what would happen? You'd save $500 billion. If you cut off the whole relationship.
We're having a fire!
Look, at what point does it, and I said this for you.
You want to try that again?
No.
Years, I said it with other countries also. You know, China's not the only country ripping us off. At NATO, where we defend Europe for nothing, by the way.
Okay,
essentially
NATO's not a
nothing,
country,
I was
by
able
the
to
way.
get them to pay hundreds of billions of dollars more. You know my biggest fan in the world? Secretary Stoltenberg.
He has said that to me on the
said-
show, actually.
He's been there a long time. He said,
Why is she keep
nobody's ever
spiking the
got-
camera?
You know, we were paying more and more. They were paying less.
He
You
has
can
said
see the
that
chart
to is that
of what they pay. So we are defending Europe.
It's like the
And
hostage.
then
He says,
they're taking
they're
advantage
treating me
of
very
us on
well,
trade.
and I get a
It's all
shower
one
monthly,
way,
for which
and
I
it
am
was
grateful.
all turning, and it is all turning around.
And you pulled back
but
the
we've
money.
been proven to be right. Yeah, I pulled back.
You pulled back the money from the thrift fund. They wanted to put 10% of the thrift fund into MSCI index. That was
billions of
Chinese
dollars.
companies.
Billions.
$50 billion.
Yeah, I pulled it back.
Will you go one
What?
step further and force that Chinese companies have to follow accounting rules if they want to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange
So
and the
we're
NASDAQ?
looking at that very strongly, but on the thrift fund, you know, it's run by the Obama appointments, right?
It's run.
And we said, you got to do this. And
Just
we're going
gotta
to
do
find out
this.
whether or not they're
Everybody
going to do it
makes
very
mistakes.
soon.
Everybody
And if
drinks
they're
the
not,
morning
we're going to
stuff.
replace
I never
them very
make
quickly.
mistakes.
Do you
And we are looking at your second part of your question. We're looking at that.
Because Chinese companies like an Alibaba, any Chinese company, they're listed on the New York Stock Exchange. They don't have to report their earnings the way an American company does.
Pretty amazing. But here's the problem with that. You know, look, I hate to say
Like
it,
this,
but
Rich.
let's say we do that, right? So what are they going to do? They're going to move their listing to London or someplace else. You see? Let's say you want to get tough. And you're going to do, you know, everyone wants to be a tough guy. Look, I'm the toughest
I do.
guy. But what happens is, so we say, you're going to do this, and you're going to follow the rules of the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. What do?
Yeah.
They say, okay, we'll move to London or
tough
we'll go to Hong Kong.
Mr. President, let me switch gears and ask you about General Flynn and what has taken place. We have breaking news today. The names of the people who unmasked General Flynn have been publicized.
Not true.
Joe Biden,
The
John
names
Brennan,
of the people
Jim
who may
Comey.
have
Your
seen
reaction.
an unmasked
It was the
request
greatest
come to
political
fruition,
crime in the
not
history
the
of our
ones
country.
who requested
If I
that
were
General
a
Flynn
Democrat
be
instead of a
anyone.
Republican, I think everybody
Such
would have
nonsense.
been in jail a long time ago, and I'm talking with 50-year sentences. It is a disgrace
You can't
what's
form
happened.
one sentence.
This is the greatest political scam, hoax in the history of our country.
Well, it is the
And
biggest
people
political
should be
scandal we've
going
ever
to jail
seen.
for this stuff, and hopefully a
What was the
lot of
crime?
people are going
Exactly.
to have to pay. No other president should have to go through. And I'll tell you, General Flynn and others are heroes.
Because they
Heroes,
lied to the
because
vice president
what's happened
and
to
to the
them,
FBI?
they weren't after General Flynn. They wanted him to lie about me, make up a story. And with few exceptions,
He didn't lie about you.
nobody did that. There were many people. I watched KT McFarland the other day. I watched where she was knock, knock, FBI. You know, the FBI, okay?
That's what the FBI
This was
does.
all Obama.
Knock,
This
knock,
was all
FBI.
Biden. These people were corrupt. The whole thing was corrupt, and we caught them. We caught them.
Huge-
And
I
what you
saw
saw
your tweet.
just now, I watched Biden yesterday. He could barely speak. He was on Good Morning America, right? And he said he didn't know anything about it. And now it just gets released right after he said that. It gets released that he was one of the unmaskers, meaning he knew everything about it. So
That's
he
not
lied
what
to
it
your
said.
friend George Stephanopoulos. What kind of stuff?
Explain to our audience what this means, because I mean this is a serious
knock,
thing. They
Obamacare.
are tracking phone calls. They were
Hello.
tracking a phone call of, I guess,
Goodbye.
Kislyak, and you're not supposed
I'll tell you
to.
what it means.
Yeah,
It's
I
very
mean,
simple. So even before I got elected, you remember the famous The Two Lovers, right? Strzok and Page. The insurance policy.
We didn't know about that
She's
until
going to
after
win,
you
but
got
just in
elected.
case she
okay.
does it, we have an insurance policy.
Yeah.
That means that if I won, they're going to try and take me out. That's all it means. Very simple.
was already
it's an
in motion,
insurance
but-
policy.
okay.
So she's going to win, isn't she, darling? Isn't she going to win? I watched Chuck Todd this weekend. What he did to a beautiful sentence
strange
made by
edit.
our great Attorney General, and he cut it in half. And then he complained that Bill Barr didn't say the other half of the sentence, and he said the exact same words that Chuck Todd used. These are corrupt people. These are people
I don't know if
that
that's
shouldn't be allowed
corrupt.
to be
That's
on
just bad
television.
editing.
Because,
and they apologize
You know, when I
for
say
it.
the enemy of the people, that's the enemy of the
Check
people.
Chuck
That's
Todd and
corrupt.
Meet the Press.
Okay, that's corrupt. But this was a terrible, terrible thing that happened to our country. It was a try. They tried to overthrow a duly elected. Forget about me. a duly elected president of the United States.
You're not
They tried
the
to do an
duly
overthrow
elected president
with
of-
fiction by making up stories about Russia. Now it's all come out that actually they wanted Hillary Clinton. You saw that one came out yesterday.
No.
They wanted Hillary
It did
Clinton
not.
to win. Nobody's been tougher on. I mean, you can speak to Putin or anybody else. Nobody has been
Can
tougher
we?
on Russia
Hold
than
on.
I have.
Well,
They wanted
What's Putin's
Hillary
number?
Clinton to win.
General Flynn was exonerated, but we all
555.
know because of the
666,
setup
666.
notes, and now Judge Sullivan is delaying
no,
it.
now they all know.
So what do you think about this federal judge
edit
saying,
it.
well,
It's
I'm not
speaker.
going to write off on the exoneration just
It's
yet? What is
pretty-
that
I think
about?
it's one of the most incredible things that I and many other people, there's a lot of anger, have ever seen.
I don't wanna get
just
sick.
had General Milley and some other generals in my office about an unrelated topic, right? And I said, do you guys know General Flynn? General Milley, head of Joint Chiefs of Staff, great military person, bearing. He said, I've known General Flynn for a long time, sir. He's a great man and he's a great gentleman. This should
Why
never
did you
have
fire
happened to
him?
Three-star
That's what
general.
the general said.
So
They said,
the
well,
The
he
FBI
FBI
lied.
said
He
that
was
they
vice president.
started the Crossfire Hurricane in July of 2016. But we know that there were informants running into your campaign associates as early as January, February of 2016. They would be Stefan Halper, Joseph Mifsud, Alexander Downer. Who organizes that? Would that come out of the CIA? I know that Stefan Halper made $1 million. I don't know what he was paid that $1 million for, but
They got paid a fortune. These guys got paid
Just for running
government
your
money. Think of
campaign?
it. Government money. They were interviewed. I don't know Papadopoulos. I never met even Carter Page. I never met this man. But they went after Carter Page because they thought he was a person in the campaign. I think he was on a committee. But I never met him. But they went
green.
after
Her
these
hair is
people
green.
viciously, all because they wanted to hurt the President of the United States. They figure they'll either hurt him or they'll take him out. That would be the ideal. Comey is a corrupt person. But let me tell you, Brennan bad, they're all bad. Everyone. Clapper is, not smart guy in charge of intelligence.
Clapper's
But
a
here's the
not
thing.
smart guy.
It was impossible for it to happen
Like when you insult
without
people, it
the
sounds
man
like
that
an
sits
idiot.
right in that chair in the Oval Office. He knew everything.
do you believe
Which still
President
wouldn't be illegal.
Obama directed the U.S. intelligence agencies to spy on you?
Yes, he probably directed them, but if he didn't direct them, he knew everything.
Once they
And you'll
couldn't
see
find
that. By the way,
collusion
excuse me,
evidence.
you're going to
Fine.
see that when the papers came out. Remember the Lisa Page text to her lover saying POTUS wants to see everything? POTUS. They're not talking about me. I wasn't president. They're talking about POTUS
Well,
wants
there was
to
a
see
meeting on
everything.
January 5th in the Oval Office. President Obama was there. Vice President Biden was there. Clapper, Brennan.
Sally
and
Yates.
that's when the Logan Act came up. So should we believe that they were looking for collusion evidence? They couldn't find the collusion evidence. There was none. So they said, let's just use the Logan Act to
First
take it
of all,
down.
they snuck around White House counsel. They went to see a very unsuspecting General Flynn. He's a general. He's not a lawyer. They said you don't need a lawyer. And they started asking him questions. And they probably brought up the Logan Act. And they probably scared the hell out of him. But let me tell you a little secret. They go knock, knock, and ask K.T. McFarland the way they knocked on the door, and many other people. With Mueller, that whole thing turned out to be a total fraud. The whole Mueller investigation's a fraud. It was all part of the same deal.
He just
But
went
they,
down another
what they
path
did to
quickly.
General Flynn and others, we know about General Flynn. You'll find out about others too.
Oh,
what
good.
they did to these people is a international disgrace, and all over the world they talk about it. Because this is not America.
Do they
And
talk about this,
hopefully
Green
the
Room? Do they
people
talk about this in
involved
Ireland?
Are going to pay a big price because it should never be allowed
About-
to happen again.
Mr.
Lisa
President,
Page and
this is
Strzok.
toward the end of your first term as president, and this entire term has been dominated by resistance. You've gotten so much done. Tax legislation, international things, so much
Crashing the
done. And
economy,
yet, FBI takedown
slowing
effort,
down manufacturing
pushback
to
on
the
all
point
of
of
your
zero
Supreme
job
Court
growth.
judges, a complete drama around Brett Kavanaugh, the Democrats in Congress attacking your call with the Ukraine leader, then an impeachment trial.
Over nothing. Over absolutely
And
nothing.
I've never seen anybody to take a punch and get right back up and keep punching. Where does this resilience come from that you keep getting things done in the face of
Well, at
all
least
of
it's not a
A lot
softball
of people
question.
have asked me that question. Rush Limbaugh said, I heard him the other day, he said, I've never met a man that could take this much punishment and still be a great president.
Because you're an absolute idiot.
What I've done is more than any other president. You take the first 3 years, we've done more tax cuts.
In praise. Protesting in praise of him.
We've done more than any other president ever.
Jerusalem, al-Baghdadi.
Oh, I mean, Jerusalem. Just look at all of the things. Even
moving the embassy.
What would do?
I changed an address.
And Iran was a powerful nation. Iran's a much different place right now. They'd like to make a deal. Iran would like to make a deal, but Iran was a very powerful place. So much we've done, so much, and I'm so proud. By the way, how about rebuilding our military? Our military was totally depleted. Now we have the strongest military, brand new jets.
There was no
everything
military.
is beautiful, all made in the USA.
Your cousin John
all of the things
Marines?
I've done, including taking care of our Second Amendment. Our Second Amendment was and will be.
Depleted.
If they get in, you're not going to have any Second Amendment. They will get rid of the Second Amendment. All for all of those people that feel that the right to bear arms is a big thing. All of these things that I've done, and yet I've done it through.
So it wouldn't save anyone.
I've had to fight through walls, like the wall that we're building on the southern border. I've had to fight through walls.
It's not stopping, though. Are you ready to fight for another 4 years?
It's getting much better, and we caught them in the act. Look, they have been caught in the act. We caught them.
Yes, exactly.
I consider
that's
it
what
maybe one of
it was like in the
I always
Marines
say
when
drain the
your
swamp.
cousin John fired
Nobody
the
knew the
cannons.
swamp was
It was
that
just
people
whatever
that
refuse they had
bad.
on the ship.
Guys like Comey at the FBI, these were bad people. The FBI. You talk about General Flynn. The FBI said he didn't lie. They said he didn't lie.
Trey Gowdy on my show this weekend said that leaking classified information is a 10-year felony. We know that some of those people did that.
Well, Comey did. And other people
How
did too.
involved was John Brennan?
Totally involved. He was totally involved. John Brennan was one of the architects, in my opinion. You look at Brennan, you look at Clapper, you look at them all. But ultimately,
by the way,
the president knew
90,000 dead Americans.
The president knew everything.
Let's hammer this
President
whole Flynn
Obama
thing, and I think that's
and
probably
Vice
what's gonna happen
President
for the rest of
Biden.
it. Let's go find out about the super
Judge
duper
doesn't
missiles.
like me very much, okay? Maybe the judge doesn't like me very much. I'll tell you what, I've read...
still Flynn.
Looking at this, wondering if that's where it originated.
Oh, okay, so this is about the
They
Wuhan
would rather
lab.
see our country fail, and you know what that means, because part of failure is death. They would rather see that than have me get elected. I've driven
Democrats
them crazy.
would rather
I don't know
Americans
what it is.
You've upended everything,
but the Democrats are saying,
and they want their
hey,
power,
let's
I
save
guess.
everyone's
Real
life
quick
and
on
not
this
open up
Wuhan
everything.
lab. I just want to
Let's
get
not
your
open
take on
things.
this,
Yeah,
because
so I
people
don't know
are
that
questioning
really
it, and
makes sense
I
for me.
feel like
I
I
think
was
we
among
should
the
open
early ones
everything
looking
now.
at this, wondering if that's where it originated. And in the Wuhan lab, didn't we as a country give money to that lab?
Yeah.
So what
as I
goes on
understand
at
it,
this
before
lab?
I got here, $7.5 million in 2014, and look, they said they were studying different things, and things like that happened. But money was given by the Obama administration early on.
Okay.
Okay.
And
I ended it.
you ended it. No more money going into that Wuhan lab.
By the way, guys,
but, I mean,
take a
why
minute
would
and
they
watch
say-
60 Minutes from this last Sunday.
We're studying
It
all sorts
talks
of
about
stuff. You saw
Trump
what happened. I
ending
ended it.
specific
Have a
investigation
partnership
of
with China
coronaviruses
when
like
you
the
can't
one we're
trust
dealing with.
anything they say or do.
Maybe hard to do. It's okay. It's okay
About
with
3
me.
weeks ago.
Maybe hard to do, but that's okay with me.
I mean, that's when he ended it. But watch 60 Minutes from this last Sunday. We've shut off the funding to the actual research that would help us in a situation like this. All right, let's take a look at the presentation of the Space Force flag.
Bye.
Incredible
Rich.
military equipment
Nice to meet you.
at a level that nobody's ever seen before. We have no choice. We
Bye,
have to
Rich.
do it with
This
the
is quick.
adversaries we have out there. We have, I call it the super duper missile.
Speaking of bye.
And I heard the other
Me
night
too.
17
Okay, bye.
times faster than what they have right now. Then you take the fastest missile we have right now. You've heard Russia has 5 times, and China's working on 5 or 6 times. We have one 17 times, and it's just gotten the go-ahead. 17 times faster, if you can believe that, General. That's something, right? 17 times
The general's
faster
like,
than
this
what we
is
have right now.
classified
Fastest in the
information. We're
world
not
by
supposed
a
to be
factor of
discussing this.
almost 3. So I just want to congratulate everybody. And
By the way, the
thank
Pentagon has already
everybody.
denied
Space
that this is a
going to
thing
be,
because it's,
gonna be the
top
future,
secret.
both in terms of defense and offense and so many other things. And already
Defense
from
and offense
what I'm
and so
hearing
many
and
other
based on
things.
reports, we're now the leader in space, and that took place. Don't forget, we're having a meeting today. This is really to unfurl the flag.
Were we
but
not
we've
the
been
leader
doing
in
this now
space?
for quite a while.
I mean, yeah, I know
I
other
have to
countries
say
have gone
that
to the
from
moon,
my
but
standpoint, having a force, a Space Force in this case, but to be adding to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which I've known about and read about and heard about all my life, just like General Milley to be the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
We already had the Air
That's a
Force,
very special thing.
and
Well,
they took care of
add
space.
another force into the Joint
You're just
Chiefs
basically
and we're
splitting
getting
off part of the Air Force.
A 4-star, in this case, we're getting a 4-star general on your board. So we're doing something right here. So we're doing something that is such a monumental task. So it's been more than 72 years. The Air Force, I believe, was the last one. And so we have Air Force, and not since the Air Force has anything like this happened. And now we have Space Force added on with full honors, I must add, with full honors. So today we're here for a
Full honors?
very important.
Does anybody know what that
It's really
means?
an important occasion because we're unfurling the flag, and with us is Chief Master Sergeant Roger Toberman, and he is.
I watched some of this,
I'd like
so
to
there's
say,
back and forth.
fantastic, and I heard tremendous things about you, Roger.
I just want to get to the
Very
credits so
important
you guys can see what I
position. You're
did.
with all these generals,
And
but you
it's
know
your
what?
names.
He's an important.
Okay, so here's the new Star Trek flag. Let's go ahead here. Yay, Star Trek. Oh my god, it's a communicator. It's a Star Trek communicator. I was joking, but that's what that is. Yay for the Federation of Planets.
That is great. You stay right there.
Okay, so he's... Well, this is awkward. Okay, so there's the coronavirus, and he's standing directly behind the guy. Even adjusting for camera space. He's right, he just bumped into the guy.
Fantastic. Isn't that great?
Well, that's
Please get a picture.
fantastic.
That's beautiful.
Mr. President, will stand in your office alongside the other service flags.
Very, very great honor. It's a great honor. That's a beautiful flag, too. Roger, hold that up so they can see. That's really beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, they were just holding it up
that's
so
a big
that they
day.
could see.
That's a big day.
Can somebody explain the logo? General Raymond?
Please.
So the Delta.
Okay, go back to the desk, sign something, and then give out the viruses.
Yeah, Roger. Come here, Roger. And we're going to
Okay.
sign.
Gives that away.
Okay, so let's do it. This is great stuff.
This is great stuff. You know, because Space Force.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see. I think.
All right, so that's done. Now, next time someone says, oh, don't pay attention to what Trump says, because it's never going to happen. Sometimes it does. And he's going to spread the virus around. There we go. By the way, I know he gets tested sometimes multiple times a day with the Abbott machine, that you go boom into the Abbott machine. And the FDA has now said that the Abbott machine can have up to a 50% false negative reading. Yay. All right, so we're going to spend a lot of money setting up an agency that was already part of an agency.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
So,
I'll be going to
great.
Camp David tonight with a lot of different people. We have some big.
All right, so later tonight, at some point, I'll probably do a Billy Joel Madness update just for you, Rich Mack. He's our big sponsor. And then tomorrow, we'll see what happens. I don't even know what's on the schedule for tomorrow, because this morning there really wasn't anything on the schedule except the vaccine. And then we ended up doing two and a half to three broadcasts. I'm going to count this as 2 broadcasts. Okay, so that's it for me, guys. I'm going to turn off this. Okay, and then I'm going to say goodbye, and then you guys are going to see our credits for the very first time, so watch for your name. If you don't see your name on there, it's because you're not a patron or a sponsor, or you've been giving me the Super Hearts, which just started today. I didn't know about Super Hearts until right now, so I love the Super Hearts, and I got to figure out how they work. Also, we're going to be doing Super Chat in YouTube. That's another thing. But if you'd like to become a sponsor of the show and help us do things like this, then please go to kevinleefather.com. Or if you'd rather just do it through PayPal, everything is appreciated. PayPal.me/KevinLeeDad. It's easy, but Patreon is the one that works out for everybody. And if you donate $100,000, I will stop broadcasting, because that's plenty of money for a while. Okay, bye guys. Thanks very much. Here's your super duper closing credits.